Hello and welcome to Cutter Farms. Today we're going to be kicking off our first actual episode on the Oklahoma map by DJ Modding. We have done a map preview of this map, which I'll link in the corner up above if you want to see a tour of the map. And we've done a live stream on this map setting up our farm. We brought most of the equipment back to our farm, but we do have this John Deere cotton harvester here that needs to get back up to the farm. And so we have got a low loader here, and we've set everything up with the vehicle straps mod, so hopefully this cotton picker is going to stay on the trailer here. Normally you would see a piece of equipment probably getting transported with its duals off. However, given how this trailer worked, the wheels were a bit narrow, so I left the duals on so that I could hit these ramps with the cotton harvester and get everything loaded up on the trailer here. So we're gonna see if we can get this thing back up to the farm without having any major collisions or issues. I'm super excited to be playing on this map. It looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun. We have decided to start off with a small cotton farm. If we take a quick look at the map here, our cotton farm that we've purchased is up here in the northwest corner of the map. We've got a little bit of land and a couple of small fields to get started with, and we're going to expand from there. So we're going to be playing just with the starting money that we got from Farm Manager, which is about $1 million in cash if I recall, and a little bit of debt. You start with $1.25 million, and so we have stayed within that as we set up our farm. Now, I'm looking here as we come up to this stoplight at a dirt road, and this is going to be a problem. I'm not sure how we're going to get this equipment to go through here. Maybe we can make our way around this light. We're going to have to wait for this truck to come by, though, because I don't think I can make this turn before he gets here. Let's see if we can navigate this stoplight here without crashing into anything. This is gonna make getting this larger equipment around on the map pretty tricky, but we've made it here. It's always good times trying to navigate big maps like this with lots of terrain details. We are going to hug more into the center of the road here. I don't want to be taking out too many road signs. We are going to have to navigate a couple more of these traffic light areas, though, which is unfortunate. There's no great way to get back to our farm without dealing with all of these traffic lights. And so we're going to just try to sneak around these lights without hitting anything here. I would hate to have to try and do this for real. Yeah, there's no way that we make that turn. I would hate to try and do this for real because the visibility I have outside of my truck is way better than you would get inside the cab of a semi. And so I think what we're gonna do here is see if I can bring the trailer past a little bit here, and then we're gonna back it into that intersection and hopefully line things up in a way that I can actually get down this road now without hitting anything. This is quite the unfortunate intersection for us, and of course we've got the impatient farm sim traffic coming behind us. He's just gonna hopefully wait so that we don't have any unnecessary collisions. There we go. We have navigated the intersection of doom. I think we've only got one more of these crazy intersections to get to. I think if I had one complaint so far from the couple of hours I've spent on this map, it would be those overhanging traffic lights on these country roads. I've not really ever seen lights like that out in the countryside. If I was trying to drive through a downtown area, sure, maybe that would be something that you'd run into. But this far out in the country, not sure I would see a big traffic light like that, especially on a dirt road. So here we go. We've got one last light to navigate here. I'm sure I'll get in the comments some helpful suggestions that are going to come way too late for me on how better to navigate a situation like this. I mean, obviously I could cut through on the grass, but that doesn't feel very realistic. And so we're going to, I think, attempt to do the same trick here. I've just got to make sure I don't hit any of these poles. There's a lot of things to run into in this intersection, so we're going to attempt to get this thing backed up here. We're gonna have to take a second pass at it in just a second. I think if I can get at a little bit more of an angle like this, the problem being this telephone pole is right where I want the front of my truck to be. Nope, we're not gonna make that turn. All right, one more attempt here, folks. Here we go. Third time's the charm. My goodness, this is definitely going to be a struggle. We're hopefully not going to have to acquire any more large equipment like this. Next time we may have to scout out the other path. Maybe there's a less horrible intersection to get through on the other approach into the farm. But from my experience thus far on the map, we've got those style of intersections everywhere. So we'll have to drop DR Modding some feedback. So after careful consideration, I'll say, maybe uncareful consideration, we've come to the conclusion that we're not going to be able to get our loader down into the driveway there. So we're going to go ahead and unload this thing here right on the road and get it into our farm. So let's extend our ramps here. I think I can lower these independent of each other. We can unstrap our cotton picker and hopefully get this unloaded without any issues. We had a heck of a time getting it loaded initially just because our tires don't line up so well with the ramps here. But we've now got this thing unloaded, so let's see if we can get this up to the farm without running into anything important. This driveway is quite a steep approach here, so that's definitely a problem for getting a big long trailer like our low loader in here. We might have to open up the landscaping tool at some point and see if we can make some adjustments to that driveway to hopefully make it a little bit easier to get in and out of our farm. But for the time being, we're on a pretty low traffic road here, so unloading on the road and driving things into the farm is not going to be that big of a deal. It was a fairly expensive delivery to get this thing down here. The dealer didn't have any drivers to take our equipment down to the farm for us, and so we ended up leasing a trailer from a local company so that we could bring this cotton harvester back up to the farm here. We're going to park it in this big open shed. I think it's one of the few sheds we have that's got a tall enough roof for a piece of equipment like this. And I think this is going to wrap up getting all of the equipment up to the farm. Since this is our first official video episode here, let's take a quick walk around the farm. This is a small farm on the map. We do have some grain capacity here, so we've got a auger set up for both loading and unloading our bins here. And then we've bought all of the equipment necessary for cotton here. We have the bale trailer, which will hook up to our semi for hauling bales to the market. And then we've got this dump cart here, which will take the loose cotton from the harvester and dump it into this baler setup here. And so this is the Brazilian cotton pack, I believe it's called, on the in-game mod hub. And so we're going to be playing with this a little bit. And all of this equipment was recommended during our live stream. And so if you want to see kind of how we set up the farm and why we made the decisions we made, go check out the live stream that we did on this. I'll include it in the playlist for this series. We've also got a small 4240 in here in the shed, and this tractor is going to be used for a lot of small utility type jobs. Specifically, we're going to be using this tractor on the baler here to run the PTO when we're out in the field, because you're not really hauling anything with this. We'll bring it out to the field empty and set it up and then run the baler. And then if we come over here to our large shed, first off, you've got our farm truck, the 1500 Silverado by Carl Farms, one of my favorite trucks in Farm Sim. And then in the big shed here, we've got the 8030 series tractor. We've got an 8430. This is by Dennis Farms, and I love this tractor. He's done a great job on it, and we're using this specifically because he has the 36-inch row spacing option for it, which is really cool. And we're going to be able to use that with the 36-inch row planter that JHHG Modding recently released. This planter is set up to apply liquid nitrogen when we are planting, and so we have the hookups, the hoses, to allow us to put liquid fertilizer in. And so we've got the front tank, which is also from JHHG Modding, which will hook up to the front of this 8030 series tractor and allow us to put down some nitrogen while we're planting. It'll just be a little bit that'll go in, and then we'll come back and finish off with a sprayer most likely. So the one thing that we don't have is a sprayer on this farm yet. We will be figuring that out here as the series continues, but we have to get through the planting season first. And then we've also got this Case True Tandem, I believe this is the 345 disc. And during the live stream, just to get things started out, we have already done some tillage here on this field up here because it required some tillage. And so we will be putting cotton in both of our fields to get started. And the goal is to rotate our cotton with some wheat. And so if we look at the calendar here, you can see that there is an option to plant some winter wheat here. And so we will most likely be doing our cotton planting here as we get into the appropriate temperatures. And then following harvest, we're going to rotate in some wheat on those crops. We're hoping to make a fair amount of money on our cotton, allowing us to expand this farm and grow into some neighboring fields. If we take a quick look at the mini map here, you can see our two fields around the farm here. This came all as part of the farm purchase. It would be really nice to be able to afford another field here after we get through our cotton harvest, and so we're really going to be working towards being able to afford some additional fields. This one's a 43-acre field for just shy of $350,000. And so we could max out our loan right now and probably go after that land. But I think I'd rather try to stay a little bit within our means. We are not going to be cheating in any money in this playthrough. And so we're going to try and play within the bounds of the game. And so you can see we've started fairly meager with our setup. We need to add a sprayer, and then we also need to pick up some seeding equipment in the fall after we have gotten through the harvest cycle on our cotton. So with that, we're going to advance time. All right, we are back after having moved forward time here into the spring. We are going to get our 4240 out here and head on into town. We've leased a fertilizer spreader here. We need to do a little bit of work to get our fields prepped. This is a new farm, and to be honest, the nitrogen condition of our fields is in a pretty poor state. And so we're going to put down a little bit of dry fertilizer mix here on our fields before we get into the planting season, just to give us a little bit of a boost and then we'll do a little bit more fertilizing as the year goes on here. We are going to try and be just a little bit more realistic with how we approach applying nitrogen to our fields. And so the more research I do and kind of look into things, I think cotton's very similar to corn in a lot of ways, in that, you know, it needs a big amount of nitrogen after the plant starts growing. And so I think we'll definitely be putting on some liquid fertilizer after the crops come up to kind of top things off from a precision farming perspective. But we're going to need to do just a little bit of dry fertilizer here ahead of time to get our soil up to a reasonable condition. And since we don't have a lot of money, it was the cheapest option for us. We did not buy the dry fertilizer spreader. We're going to lease one from the co-op here to help us get started. So I'm going to head into town and we'll catch up with you up at the co-op. We're up here at the Miller's Feed and Seed here, where we've got our bulk refill points. We are leasing this awesome Wilmer spreader that was recently released by Angry American Modding, I believe. We decided on the way about halfway up here that we should start making some auto drive courses. This is a large 4X map, and I'm not necessarily going to want to have to do all of my driving manually on this map, and so we're gonna just kind of work on a few of those as long as we're here. I figured we'd hit up the core points, and so auto drive's pretty easy to take care of things here, so we're just hitting the ones that matter at the moment. We can always come up and add some more later, but it's one of those things, if you just work on it every time you're going to a new location, it doesn't take but a few trips and you've got automatic paths for just about everything. And so we're gonna just hit the major points here. I don't even think we're gonna end up using anhydrous here in this playthrough, but you never know. It doesn't hurt to have options. One thing that I liked about this map, we've got all the gates and stuff on the businesses, and they do automatically open. I'll be curious to see how well auto drive's gonna be able to handle functionality like that. And at some point here, we may have to turn off the traffic if we are going to let auto drive be driving around on the map, as it's a little bit chaotic. However, given that we're driving this course manually right now, I've been leaving traffic on. It definitely adds an element to the game. I like seeing the other cars and vehicles and such moving around on the map. And so we're gonna just take this other path back to the farm since we're already here. It was easier than turning and going kind of around that more curvy path to get back to the farm. I think this is probably a little bit longer of a distance to drive. However, there's less things to run into on the way back to the farm here. And so we may end up taking this road a little bit more often than the more northern route, just to avoid all of the traffic light stops. Although it appears that we've got some this way too, so something to definitely take into consideration. Technically, I think this is supposed to be a 2-lane road. However, I don't want to be running into all these telephone poles with any implements that we might have later on when we use this course, so I'd rather kind of hug more to the middle. Checking the map here real quick, as I'm still unfamiliar with the map. This is not our turn. We need to get up to the next intersection. Now, we've probably overbought fertilizer for the size of fields that we have. Honestly, I wasn't really thinking about it. I probably would have gone with about a half of a trailer. So that might be an investment that we have made here for a few seasons. We will be probably using dry fertilizer in between our planting cycles just to mix things up, and then liquid fertilizer during planting and spraying. It seems to be somewhat common in the area from the limited research that I've done. And just like that, we are back up here at the farm. We are going to go ahead and take this auto drive course all the way back up to the farm yard here, I think, and then from there we will get out of the edit mode for auto drive here and get into doing a little bit of field work yet today. I think given the layout of this farm, we're going to have auto drive stop here. This is a good spot for main farm. And then if we were to be looping this drive course around, it looks like really our only main course of action would be to kind of come back here and circle around the farm buildings. Something like this. I'm really not a fan for how low this auger is here for filling trucks and stuff, but in theory we will create a point somewhere in here for main farm grain dump. We probably should have made one for the main farm grain loading back there as well, but these are things that will adjust as we get into having a need for the points. It's hard to think about exactly which points you'll need ahead of time sometimes. And so all I want to do is bring this out to the end of the road, because that's about where I will remember next time that we didn't create an auto drive course, or that we need to finish creating a fully complete auto drive course. And so I'm gonna bring it right out to here, and we're just gonna stop that and call it good for the time being. We don't need our hazard lights on anymore. And what we're gonna do is go ahead and start spreading some fertilizer here in this cornfield. I think we'll start right here on the long row, so I am gonna get my GPS turned on here. I'm not quite sure how wide this spreader is, and so we're gonna get going a little bit here. We're gonna figure out our width, and then we'll set up a GPS track for ourselves. It looks like it's not as wide as I was hoping, so we'll have a little bit of cleanup to do there in the corner. But if I get right here in this row, it looks like we're gonna be in a good spot. So I'm gonna go ahead and get our GPS track going here. We're gonna turn GPS on, and we're gonna do some fertilizing here. This field should go pretty quick if I bring up my precision farming though. We are applying way more nitrogen than I would like. Alright, so after some finagling with getting GPS working, and then looking at how much nitrogen we're applying, we've dialed down the dry fertilizer a bit here over the last couple of passes. And so we are now applying 40 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare. I think this is going to be a good ratio, and then we're going to come back and give the cotton a boost as it gets into its early growing stages. And then similarly, we're going to put a little bit down when we plant, I think, too, of liquid nitrogen, just to keep things moving along. I've been talking to a couple of people that are actual cotton farmers in real life, and we definitely need to give the cotton some nitrogen after it starts growing. It sounds like there's kind of a divide. Sometimes people do side dressing, similar to how I've seen corn done in the past. And sometimes people are doing it via spray as the crops get a little bit bigger. So I haven't decided which path we're going to go. Definitely small enough fields here where we could get away doing a side dressing setup, or we're going to need a sprayer anyway for getting some herbicide and stuff down here. So we'll probably pick up a sprayer and just go with that, given the limited funds on the farm. Now, we are, even at the reduced rate that we're spreading this dry fertilizer, going through it faster than I expected we would. And so we need to keep our eye on that for sure. I thought we had way overbought on our fertilizer, but it looks like we're going to probably go through more of it than I thought. Hopefully we'll have a little bit left over, and we don't need to buy more. I would be somewhat struggling from a financial perspective if we need to buy a bunch more fertilizer here. But we are only going, again, like I said, at the 40 kilograms per hectare now. If we look at the precision farming map, you can see these first few passes we applied extra, but now we're not applying it quite so heavily. But we have already gone through, what, almost 15% of our fertilizer. I think we're going to be okay. We do have one more field to spread on. But this is definitely the bigger of our two fields. I think this series is going to be a lot of fun, focusing a little bit more on staying within the bounds of the game and, you know, farming with some restrictions here. So I can't wait to see where we get to. Leasing this equipment is definitely expensive. It's not been cheap. But at the same time, I think that's, you know, probably somewhat realistic. I know when we were farming, we would get equipment from the co-op on a regular basis for things that we didn't have. I think we used a side dresser from the co-op at one point. We, you know, had somebody come out and do some spraying for us. And so there's definitely options to either borrow equipment, you know, like a spreader like this as part of the fee that you're paying along with the material, or to, you know, buy equipment outright. This particular spreader would have cost us, I think, $25,000, $35,000, where to lease it here for the day is only going to cost us about $1,000 plus material. And so ignoring maybe, you know, what realistic prices for some of that stuff would be, I think within the bounds of farm sim mechanics, we're definitely feeling the pressure here of starting up a farm. We don't have a lot of cash and we're several $100,000 in debt. So it'll be fun to see how this plays out. It's fun to have to kind of pause and think about what equipment we're going to get. We are going to forego spreading lime this year. Our fields are in a decent state from a pH perspective. And honestly, I just don't think we can afford it. So we've already invested too much on the fertilizer here. It does look, the further we get here, that we have overbought our fertilizer. So my concerns a few moments ago are unjustified. But with that said, there's not a lot we can do about that at this point. We'll have a couple pallets of dry fertilizer left over, it looks like, but that'll just be investment in this next crop rotation's fertilizing. So even with the rotation, I think wheat also uses a ton of nitrogen. So we're going to need to put a little bit more fertilizer down here ahead of seeding our wheat later in the year. But I feel like this Wilmer fertilizer spreader is probably about perfect for our farm. It runs well on the 4240 here, so this has been a fun mod to try out here. I could definitely see us reaching out and buying one of these when the time comes. I think it would work out even as we expand the farm here. I think this would be an appropriate sized piece of equipment to kind of get us along for a significant amount of growth from where we're at right now. One of the other things I've been doing a little bit of research on is just the way that you handle ground down in the south here. A lot of people are rotating cotton and corn, it seems like. And it feels like there's a mix between people who are actually no-tilling their cotton directly into the corn ground. They just offset it from the corn row and put it in the middle in between the corn stalks. And then there's a lot of people who are still doing more conventional tillage, where you're going through and actually doing some plowing. You're doing some level of disking or vertical tillage to chop up the residue before you get into planting. Maybe a couple of passes, you hit it with a disc or something afterwards. It's always fascinating to me to see that there's still a mix of farming techniques in the modern era, and that there's just not really a right answer to things. There's a lot of different ways that people are doing things. I think for our purposes, we're gonna actually try and no-till into this corn ground and see how that works. I think the planter we have is set up to do that. And from a farm sim perspective, this field isn't registering as requiring any tillage at this point. Where we have already plowed up the other field here are on the north side of the farm. And so I'm thinking about that. We might change our minds and still do some tillage on this field before we get into planting. But for now, we've got to focus on getting our fertilizer spread We're almost done with this field. We're on the final pass here of our dry fertilizer spreading here on the corn ground. We've made pretty good time, and we've already used up around 30% here of our fertilizer. And so it looks like it's not as big of an overbuy as I thought. We'll probably have about a half a tank left, a little bit less than a half a tank by the time we're done with our bean ground. We could have still used the couple of $1,000s that we spent on that in the bank account, but we'll make it work out here somehow. We're gonna drive over to the farm here on the headland though, just because we do need to jump over into this bean field and start spreading over there. I think we're gonna be in a pretty good spot. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on this next field. We will probably wrap up our fertilizing here off camera. And next episode, we're going to be ready to jump into the planting season. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's episode. If you have, leave a like. If you're new to the channel, subscribe for more daily North American realistic farm sim content. If you're enjoying this map, it should release on July 3rd, 2020. Follow DR Modding, his link will be in the description of the video for updates on the map. That's all for today. Keterk, out. So we're going to try and play this series staying in the realm of what we can buy with the starting money that we got from Farm Manager and Farming Simulator's base game. Oh, crash counter. Hopefully he's not going to clip the edge of my vehicle here. Oh, so much for that. Alright, so there appears to be no real way for us to legitimately get down here. I'm trying to just get back up on the road at this point. I guess we're gonna have to disconnect the trailer and do this separately. Alright, here we go. I wonder if I can pick that sign up, destroy the evidence.